sometimes the best thing you want to do is to fail fast. You need to experiment, you need to try things, and then you need to also find ways to always reinvent yourself as often as possible. The process is more important than the outcome.
I've worked remotely for companies in Germany, South Africa, and US. How did you break into international markets while in Nigeria?
But don't necessarily go through this part. Like they go on LinkedIn, submit a job, and then they think that no, it's going to get filtered out. So you need to be able to come in through different angles. The steps that I've been taking, try to be more strategic than actually just following the crowd. The next thing I realized that I have two jobs straight outside of university. I don't know where I'm going. I just know I have a plan.
Hello, Dennis. Thank you for joining us on the show Tech Journey with the Data Dude. I am your host. Dennis, I'm going to start with something very raw. And today we are going deeper than other podcasts. And I want to create a real conversation. And if anything feel too personal, just say next question and we'll move on. The goal is to create an authentic connection, not expectation. I know that you have this list 99 to do before you die. Most people are even too scared to even write down their dreams. But what happened in your life? Because I'm just curious to know what happened that made you realize you needed to document what really matters to you.
Oh yeah, that's a nice one. So list 99 is I think for me it's a form of reflection, and I think one of the things that I I started doing like in the past few years is reflecting more. And one thing that as someone who's trying to like do more, like become more or become better than yesterday, last year, I think having that way to understand how far you've come, like metrics or should I call it outcomes, observation, is actually very important for anyone. So list 99 for me has always been that point of like, okay, what are some of the things that I want to do that I've not done? What
Okay.
are some of the things that I might be interested in doing that I still haven't been able to get myself out of that rut to do? And then the last thing is what are some of the things that I need to change? Like what are some of the things that I need to do? And then for me to do that, I need to also change because the idea behind that is to do things that are very, very interesting, taxing, and also that warrants me to change. And I think for me right now, it's always been that point for reflection. And I think reflection is also a very key component that I've started doing lately. And I think for the past couple of years right now, and it's very important as well. And the other side of that is this same notion where when we see people, like people who have made it, or people who are actually in that roadmap to making big moves, it's always coming from a point of, okay, we've done it, and then we're looking back. For me right now, it's more from a point like, I don't know where I'm going. I just know I have a plan and I have a list. And my goal is to be able to like start working in those parts and document some of those things while I'm on it actually. Because in the end, right, I think I'm one of those few people who also think that life is a journey,
Yeah.
and then the process is more important than the outcome. So just being able to go through this, documenting and thinking about just another day, like what it looks like and what we do, what we're doing, and yeah, I think that's basically what List 99 is about.
Wow. Thank you very much for sharing that. And so this list became your North Star. Let me take you back to one of your first big moves. Let's go back to where everything started in your undergraduate, the Map Akure initiative, if I'm correct, in 2019, in 2016. You were in Futa in your college and you decided to map buildings, roads in your hometown using Open Street Map. What drove you to start this project, number one? And what problem were you really trying to solve?
Oh yeah, map our career. So So Map Accurate, it's a really nice one, and when I look back at some of the things that we did in Map Accurate, I think it was really interesting. I think Accurate had zero, like has like let's say close to zero map on OpenStreetMap and even in Google Maps. The map you see there back then was very either outdated or it has not necessarily enough features like road, buildings, etc. So when it comes to making decisions, you're not able to do much with those data because you need data to be able to like do some of these interesting things. So that's where we start thinking about Map Accurate. But actually, what brought this is so it's that incessive desire to want to think about how you can be able to like improve yourself, and also finding opportunity as well. So I never really understood map until I started seeing people, mentors, and people who I've also seen doing some really interesting things in the geospatial field. And then one of the things I was thinking about was how do I start positioning myself to be able to like either become useful to myself and also to community. But at the same time, the most important thing was like, what are some of those interesting things that a lot of people are not doing? And then back then it was mapping. So we have different departments that are focusing more on using data, but actually creating data was something that not a lot of people were doing. And then the way they were doing was using those, I think you probably have done field work where you probably have to like use, you get the map, you start drawing buildings and the like, or that you use ArcGIS to be able to like digitize future. OpenStreetMap made it so easier that you can easily just get the data and then do some really interesting things. But I think for me personally, it was that opportunity to start thinking about what are some of the important things that I can start building. And then interesting enough, knowing that OpenStreetMap is an open source project, that also gave me the opportunity or that interest to want to do things because I saw myself as an open source contributors and developer, but most of the time people around me, they always look at it from a code base, like building code, like writing code and everything. That's also open source development, but open source just was, to me, was more than just writing code. It is also building communities as well. So OpenStreetMap was that to me, right? And I think that's where the Map Accurate comes in, all the idea of having or creating values, because I think that's basically one of the most important things, like thinking about a way to create values. And Mapping Accurate was a value creating project that a lot of people was really interested in, and we actually did quite some fun things. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I'm always in love with people sharing and giving back to the community because that is also one of my own mentality about life. Just try to give in any way, and even you, I will say you as a mentor because you have started doing that a while back. I just started not quite long, and this brings me to this question. One thing on your list is buy my mom a car, which you have crossed. That means you have done it. But before you could afford that, what conversations were you having with family about your career choices? And did anyone even, maybe think you were wasting your time, or they were like, okay, you can't achieve this, or all your time with computer stuffs?
Oh yeah, that's a good and very personal question. So I never really talk career stuff with my family members because I think they won't get it, and most of the time they don't get it. I don't think my mom's up to now. My parents understand what I do, and that probably a mistake on my own part. But I just think that maybe the friction to help them understand that thing that I'm doing is higher than just doing it. So it's more from that notion of walking the talk. But one of the things I know I did and I'm still doing is finding role models and mentors. I think most of my career paths and choices are driven by some of the conversation I've had with mentors or even role models. And I think that's also very important, right? So it's extremely important. because for me, I think one of the key or one of the most important aspects of my career was that finding those important people or people who you can listen to, hear, and understand. So you're not necessarily taking what they're saying and then doing what exactly they're asking, but you're using it to understand if that's the path, because the choices also relies on yourself to know whether this is important to you. So I didn't really spend a lot of time listening to my family or folks. I think for me as well, it was mostly like, I think they know me as someone who, so I think over time they realized that I made good decisions, and I think that's also coming from doing than actually acting, and doing than actually talking, where they know that, okay, this boy or this man now knows what he's doing. He likes to go doing stuff. He likes to do his thing, but the outcome is usually very useful and important. And then for me, the way I'm able to do my stuff is by just spending time to see, learn, and talk to people. And it's kind of interesting, right? Because I like to dabble a lot, and I see my career pursuit or path as that inventory of different things that you're trying out. And sometimes the best thing you want to do is to fail fast. And then sometimes people look at this from a organization standpoint, but when you look at yourself as a startup, so which is also one of the interesting things that Reid Hoffman, the CEO of LinkedIn, also talked about, like the startup of you is a book of his. And he talked about when you see yourself as a startup, then all of the entrepreneurial journey that a startup usually embodies can also be embodied by individuals. So you need to fail fast, you need to experiment, you need to try things, and then you need to also find ways to always reinvent yourself as often as possible. So now for me, my family was more from a point of, okay, they don't get me. Frankly, I don't even get myself. But I just know that I need to always align myself with things that are changing, with people that I'm actually interested in and are doing some really interesting things. It's not like I want to be like them. It's just that I see some similarity of what they are doing that will actually be very important to me. So that's basically what I was doing. And before this call, you were also talking about how I went offline. So I think that also when me realizing that, okay, the next version of myself, I need to also take some time off to really think and recalibrate. And I didn't just take some time off social media, also interacting with friends and family as well. I also took some time off.
Wow.
It was more like I was this place where I'm just figuring my things out by myself, with some handful of people, see what they're doing, like, and pretty much that's it. Now the car stuff was from a point of like, aging parents and family, and then you start to realize that, okay, currently one of the best way to support them is to be able to like make life a little bit easier. It's also from that point where sometimes I'm also I've made similar mistake in a lot of this thing, in a lot of my career, where you try to help people, like external people, but when you look home, like you don't spend a lot of time helping people at home as well. This could be your friends, this could be it could even be your family member, it could be helping your close friend find a job, but instead you're actually sitting down with other people like who don't know you to go through their process. It's like that that enjoyment that you have where someone else tells you, oh, this guy is great. But then when it comes to your family or friends, they're like, this guy that doesn't do shit, like it doesn't do anything, like it's a very selfish person or very self-centered or what. It's not like my parents ever called me those. It's just that notion when you start thinking about, okay, maybe the very first thing you want to do is to help the people around you, like that, your tight circle. And then after you've been able to do that, then you can actually be able to like move out from that first degree relationship to maybe your third degree or fourth degree. But a lot of time what we see is that people focus more on helping people they don't know than their family. And probably because sometimes you think doing that makes you feel that hype. Like, oh, okay, this person helped this person was able to give 1 million to kids that it don't really know about, and you have friends who are literally suffering or finding it difficult. So it's depending on but to me, I decided to look more inward and see how I can be able to help people around me, than start finding or seeking that external accolades, which is something I started thinking about. Yeah.
Wow. This is great because I've learned something from what you just said. And that's one thing about me. I always love to learn from people because I will consider myself lucky to learn from people's mistake. And thank
Yeah.
you. I'm very sure people listening to this will also check in on themselves and be like, okay, I need to work on this part of my area. And this take me to the next question. Everyone knows social media is full of, all this mirage of success and everything, especially on LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn shows success after success. But what is the biggest professional rejection that almost broke you?
Professional rejection. Well, maybe I don't think I've had any like that noteworthy professional rejection, but I think some of the turning points of my careers, and some of the time that the only time where I got a little bit irritated in my career so far. Okay, so the reason why I would say I don't necessarily have this so much how should I call it, professional shift, is because unlike a lot of people who I've seen, and also hearing some of the guys who've spoken here, this is right, I don't use the word calculated risk, but I try to reduce my risk very, very, reduce the level of risk I take. And then the way you can do that, because that's something you can control, is also by ensuring that you have some form of strategy in everything you do. When it comes to job searches, I think most of my careers, or most of the job I've had, has been either recommendation or this external thing where they've seen me done something and they're interested in working. And that's also cutting across from while I was in school all the way to this right now. And I think it's also helping yourself create that competitive advantage, right? Where you can actually be able to get opportunity. And then for me as well, also part of being strategic as well is that sometimes my career journey is not necessarily based on what everyone is looking at. It's also based on some of the things that what everyone are not looking towards, and then there are potential as well. And then you can also see this from while we were in school, right? I was interested in OpenStreetMap. Not everyone is interested in OpenStreetMap. I'm in meteorology. And there are RSG people who are supposed to be doing geospatial, but I had this interest in geospatial and specifically OpenStreetMap, and that also looking back helped me have more opportunities, where even my first job outside of school was also in OpenStreetMap. And I at that time in my set, I think I was one of the biggest OpenStreetMap contributor, which was kind of interesting as well, because after that there were other people who also followed suit, and then the next thing you start seeing them using that as headways. And right now OpenStreetMap is actually one of the interesting projects in Nigeria right now, and I like to think that I had some role in those. So that's me also being strategic. Now the other thing was data science. So data science becomes kind of very interesting, and then I started learning R and not Python. The reason why I was learning R and not Python is because everyone wanted to learn Python.
Python, yeah.
And I figured that R is also equally interesting because it's an open source project.
Yeah.
And you can actually build your community or build something where you become so good at this. You might not get paid well, but when it comes to who is the best person in R, or who is the person I need to meet in R in Nigeria, that should be Dennis. But when it comes to Python, there's a lot of people in Africa and everything.
Yeah.
So the journey was now moving with R, then start working a lot with people, leading African community as well. So you are able to set yourself apart in the African context, because sometimes we even started like an African R community, did some really amazing stuff with some amazing people in Kenya. So that was like you also me being strategic in that pursuit. The funny thing is, eventually you realize that okay, you need to learn Python. But then the opportunity you've been able to create it for, or I created for myself, was around R, OpenStreetMap, and then Python becomes later on. And then right now, I use more Python than R. Like I've never written R in for a very long time.
Wow.
So coming back to your question, right? So because of some of these things that I've been taking, or these steps that I've been taking, trying to be more strategic than actually just following the crowd, I usually get recommendation, and sometimes my journey has always been a little bit more, more like, okay, if I want to apply for a job, I suddenly go on LinkedIn or just go to a job or a site and just give my CV. No, I try to find a product or project that I'm interested, learn those, get a handful of them, maybe 20, 15 or this thing, try to understand it better, and then try to reach out to people within the organization about the interest, like my interest in working there. And it's those little details that sometimes set you apart. A lot of people don't really understand this. They just maybe just go on LinkedIn, apply each job and submit your list. But I think sometimes you want to go through that extra effort or extra mile. Sometimes that's what actually sets the difference. And it's interesting because it's supposed to be a common sense, but a lot of time people don't necessarily go through this part. Like they go on LinkedIn, submit a job, and then they think that no, it's going to get filtered out. Or they go on a job ads, submit, it's going to get filtered out. So you need to be able to come in through different angles or different perspective. And then the other thing as well is like you just have to like do really interesting things, like think about things that you're not looking at. Like for instance, right now, one of the biggest things that I'm also very interested in graph. And then this is because the potential of graph is something that a lot of people don't know. I believe in 2 years, a lot of people will want to start looking closely into graphs as well, right? And funny enough, I don't use graph professionally, but lately I've been working with leading like what experts. Like every now and then I speak with CEOs and CEOs that's building graph products every single day, like hearing their chats across the UK, the United States, and across the world. So if I want to go into that field, I think it's still going to be around being strategic as well. So which means that taking those big risks or taking all of those career changes, it's something that I would say that I try so hard to reduce my risk and try to find those opportunities and then start learning in those area. But just saying this, one of the things that I can also think that made me decide to move to Portugal for my master's, I think it was a job that I had in Germany back then when I was thinking about moving out to Germany. And then the Nigeria embassy was a little bit problematic when you want to do like your exam, like your degree. You need to go through some process to be able to like get like the blue card. That stuff was really annoying because I needed to go to FUTA, go to university. They were on strike, everything. It was really annoying. So I told myself that, okay, I've had it. I need to have a good, like, not a good degree. I need to have a new degree. And then I decided to like, you know what, I need to go somewhere else to have a new degree. And so it was just that little friction, and I think that's the only friction I've had in my career, and it's just something that I can live without. But I just decided, okay, maybe right now it's about time I get a new degree, and then I decided to like go pursue my degree in information management. Yeah.
Wow. Do you know why I was smiling? I've interviewed a lot of people doing well, and majority of you guys always say the same thing. You guys apply the same principle, almost the same principle, or like with almost the same mindset. Imagine you saying, don't just maybe apply, you want to apply for a job and just go to LinkedIn, submit your CV. Surely you'll be filtered out. But Within these few minutes, you have actually drafted strategic plan that someone can implement in number one in getting job or number two in building his or her own career and number three, to be strategic, to be intentionally strategic about, okay, this is what I want to achieve in the next 2 years. Okay, I need to start building this so that I can build my foundation. Let me build my brand around it so that even if they are looking for someone that can do this thing, the only simple experts, they won't have any choice than because, okay, let's reach out to Dennis. He has been doing this for a long time, and that's our go-to guy. And this is what people always miss. They want to go through the general roadmap that people go through. And imagine you want to apply for a job on LinkedIn. There were about thousands of people that already applied for the job. Now tell me, no matter how good you are, you can't be selected. Because the principle I applied, I also applied because they were like, okay, how have you been able to get to progress in your career so fast, even in this UK? It's not just by applying for jobs. No, I know that, okay, before I can get immersed into this UK tech space, I need to know people. And how do I need to know people? I need to build myself. Then I can tell people what I do, who I am, what I've done. But before I can be talking to people, I need to have something that I can say, okay, this is what I've achieved, this is what I've done, this is what I know how to do very well. Before that, it will require a lot of work. Based on what you say, it will require a lot of work, taking a low calculated risk. Even in my current place of work, that company has been my single target company for a while. I've been targeting them and I was strategic enough. Okay, I know this is where I want to work and what are the things I need to do. I can't be like others. So I need to do something different, this, and which is what I did. And opportunity met with my readiness, met with everything. And everything I've been building so far, my brand, content creation, and everything now worked together. That they really, okay, this is the guy that fits this particular job among, hundreds of people that apply for the single job. And
Yeah.
I will say a big thank you for sharing that. Now, you have mentioned that you work with different international brands, and there is a question from an audience member. You have worked remotely for companies in Germany, South Africa, and US, all while being based in Nigeria, initially, because now you're in the UK. How did you break into international markets while in Nigeria?
Oh yeah, this is yeah, that's well, so it's just like what you said earlier, it's all about having a plan. Like I think one thing I tell people, specifically people in school, I think what okay, I knew a little bit of this while I was in school, but when I look back as well, I could do better. Being as a student, I think that's students are like one of the most opportune people in the world, but sometimes they don't necessarily think about it that way. They think about school as just going through the status quo. You go to classes, get your results, and cram facts and dates, and then just to get to the exam and put it and eventually forget. So, but yeah, it's more than that. It's how you can get prepared for the next level of your life, your career, and everything. And funny enough, I've not always been this serious when I was younger. I was one of those stubborn kids growing up. Probably because I just had other interests. I never really understand why I should be interested in studying or being serious with my life. But I think there were some changing points or turning points in my career. I think that was around senior secondary school when I started having liking for mathematics. I went on to become the head boy in school, but definitely leading mathematics clubs within my school as well. But I think that's when I realized that okay, I think I could be intelligent. So I think for a long time I probably think that I probably didn't know what I was doing. I would never know what I'm doing. But I think eventually when you start seeing results of just being serious, it started to make sense. So when you get back to university, or when I got into university, the same university yourself, right? I think that's where you also have to make a decision. So every year, the first year, everyone is trying to get a good CGPA or a good result, specifically when you come from being very good in secondary school. Probably that's because success, or our understanding of success, is by having good result in university, in your school, right? So I think that's the consensus, like you need to be good in school. But after you've been able to go through year one, and then you realize that school is probably becoming a scam, and you're no longer having interest, then it's now opportunity for you to sit down and think, what exactly do you need out of life? And I think having those questions very early on is very important. And my definition for success outside of school was that I am gainfully employed, like I am employed, and I'm also able to do things like do something like I'm employed, and I also have gainfully employed, like after I'm done from school. But when you look at the statistics or the math back then, you realize that most people who end up with a good degree in school don't end up getting employed or getting a good job or a dream job. So my role was like, okay, what are some of the things, or my strategy was like, what are the things I need to do that will help me get that employability that I'm looking for, like be someone who, should I call it, someone who has a job, or someone who is doing something really interesting, right? And for me, it was going to be anything at all. So year two was experimentation. So meeting people, doing a lot of things, learning everything, going to JCI, try public speaking, looking for whatever you want to do. And meeting people as well, like, so there are a lot of people that I've met, like they were really amazing. You see what they're doing and you're like, okay, interesting. And then you're like, yeah, I'm interested in this as well. So that's when I also stumbled across GIS and OpenStreetMap and the rest. So, and then I looked at this, I was like, this is really interesting. I like it, and there could be potential. And then that's where it becomes really interesting as well, where you start looking forward to like opportunities and getting yourself grounded full. So right now you have the outcome, which is like you're becoming employable. But then the question right now is like, what are the paths you want to take? Now the issue right now is that most people don't get to this realization very early on. So they went along with the status quo. Other people, they do, but what they do is that they end up having side jobs. Side jobs could be, maybe selling things, just making ends meet. And then sometimes, depending on what's happening, sometimes depending on what's happening, right? So you might need to have some backup plan. But for me, it was, I'm interested in some of these things, and then I needed to do it. And then I was ready to become uncomfortable to be able to like achieve this. So you'll be able to understand it. So you now know that it's not necessarily about 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It's about the long-term stuff.
Yeah.
Now, while I was doing that, I think the idea of that, okay, sometimes we restrict ourselves or confine ourselves to things that we know becomes very, very, very interesting to understand, even for someone who is not doing some really cool stuff. I didn't really understand that. I started to realize, but there's a point where I started to realize that, okay, maybe you want to reach out to people in Africa, look at what is going on in the West, and then you start learning more about things, which is where the open source, I feel like open source is a very important thing that people, or as a student, you need to take advantage of. It's very important because what open source does for you is that it open you to opportunity that is outside of your shores of learning. So as a Nigerian or somewhere in Akure, you can be working collaboratively with someone in Uganda, Kenya, or even in America or the UK or whatever the case may be. So that's what open source does for you. So being able to be in that network was important for me, and many of my friends as well, because I have like people I was moving around who also came to that same conclusion that they want to be able to like get this meaningful employment after. We never talked about it. We just knew that, okay, we want to learn things. They were learning more software engineering, Go. They were doing some really cool stuff. They got into this what's it called again? Google Summer of Code, like, which was very, very, very important. Like, two of them got that, got those. So they're doing really amazing things. I myself, I was looking at this from OpenStreetMap, so I also got some really interesting things that I was also working on. So we're just like getting each other energy. But this all started from school, so that definitely opened our eyes to various opportunity, and that was because of open source. So now something happened during 2018 or 2019, when we were supposed to finish school. So the outcome I wanted to get has not necessarily fully materialized. So I don't have a job, and then in five months or 6 months, school will soon be over, but I've been able to build networks and opportunities. Like, I've been able to build networks. So someone spoke to me, like, I think one other guy that, like, it was like two set ahead of us. He was saying, Dennis, why are you looking at opportunity within Nigeria? Why don't you just look outside? And then I was like, oh man, that actually makes sense. So I stopped from 5 months before finishing school. I stopped actually looking at companies in Nigeria. I never really cared about it. Interesting enough, I've never been employed in Nigeria before. Okay, except my internship, which was EOT Africa, and those was even a global company as well. So I've never worked for a Nigerian before. Oh yeah, I think that's better. I've never worked for a Nigerian before. So that shifted my mindset, where at that point, what I decided to do was to go through all the contacts, all the project that was going on. I wasn't going on job ads to find companies to work for. I just went on people I already know and people who I've interacted with, and then get the CEO or whatever, like the company lead or someone I know within this company. And this was when I was still in school, right? Reached out to them, talk about how interesting our conversation was. Currently, I'm wrapping up my school, and I was looking for somewhere to learn and grow my skills. And funny enough, that's how my South African gig came in, when I was learning Haro. Like, I was working with them. And Neil, which is the CEO of Predictive Insight, it was really interesting. The guy reached out to me, and then the next thing, I've already gotten a contract, and this is before I finished school. And then funny enough, another guy, another company was also looking at doing some OpenStreetMap stuff. Okay, this guy, Predictive Insights, they were using R, only R.
Only R.
That's what they use in their company. They build software tools with R. They do a lot of things in R. So it's crazy. Like, I was like, okay, I didn't even know this exists. So that was the first time I was really working with R, like outside of school and building stuff.
Wow.
Then after I've gotten this offer, I think I was working on it for like maybe I think before I even started working on it, someone else reached out to me about some interesting project we're working in Nigeria based on OpenStreetMap as well. And they reached out to me because they knew that I was doing some really cool stuff in OpenStreetMap, and that's a German company. And then they was like, okay, we're interested in doing this. I would like to get you in on board for like 6 months. I thought it was going to be a short-term project, but it was very interesting because we were paying quite a lot back then. Wow. And then since I just finished from school, any money specifically in foreign currency was a lot.
Yeah.
So I jumped into that, and I was working on that. Then the Predictive Insights company came in, and then I was like, okay, this is really interesting. So the next thing I realized that I have 2 jobs straight outside of university. So, which is also one of the reasons why I decided to like just disappear a bit, because, working through stuff. Yeah, I needed to like just learn more, like be able to like contribute more. And then interesting enough, the 2 companies they were solid. I was learning a lot. But I think there's a point where I decided to like, okay, let me focus more on the OpenStreetMap because I was learning more software engineering, data engineering stuff. So I decided to do that. I think I worked with them for like 2 years, which was interesting. So yeah, I think for me, it was more like there was this plan and outcome that I started from my second year in college, where my goal was that, okay, I needed to position myself so that I can be employable outside of college. And then for me to be able to do that, I needed to think back on what I need to do, which was like building skills, learning as much, doing things. like reaching out to people, and then conferences as well. Like was also very important. Like I think
Oh,
you should attend conferences, like no matter what you need to do, like just go and attend conferences,
grand
because you
network.
get, yeah, because you get to meet people, and I think those are some of very important things that actually made the difference for me, because it's everyone is trying to find a job outside of the country, like from Nigeria finding a job, which is right now is becoming like the norm. But now I'm telling people, instead of looking outside of Nigeria, now look inward. Look at Nigeria. There are businesses that are doing really well. There are money points. A friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, just got really interesting gig with money points.
Wow.
So look inward now, because people are now looking outward. Now it's an opportunity for you to look inward. But I think everyone is trying to like start looking outward because they feel like it pays more. But if you're just coming out of college, I think your best bet is to look inward, find companies that are doing some really interesting things, combine that with your experiences and your networking and some of the things you've been able to glean over the years, and then reach out to them. Like it's very important, yeah.
You are speaking everything at top notch level. And I will
Thanks.
start with the last point that you made. There was a guy that reached out to me complaining about okay, he has learned this, he knows how to use these tools and everything, and he has been struggling getting like international remote jobs. I was like, wait, guy, let me see your CV. Which company have you worked for before in Nigeria? I'm like, not really. I'm like, just forget about you are getting international remote job. Focus on where you are right now. Conquer where you are first before you even start thinking about at least you need to start. You need something that you can build on.
Yeah,
No international company will come and hire you without work experience. No, because there are a
yeah,
lot of people that are good more than you that can do what you cannot even do, and they will still give them the same pay. So why? So now think, why should company hire you? Like,
yeah,
forget about your international stuff. Focus on your environment.
yeah,
Conquer that, build your network on that, let people know who you are, what you can do. After that, then you can now be okay. I want to scale out of Nigeria and do more. But before that, do or apply this principle. And I want to say this, and this will be the first time I'm sharing this. When we were in school, I almost missed it out, and I will say why. There are a few of you guys, because this story is going to be fun. There are a few of you guys in school that I always like, these guys they are doing something well. Like, they are doing very fine. They are doing well. How can I do this? I know that, at the back of my mind, look, I can also do this. I can also learn this thing. Before we even finished school, I think you traveled to USA maybe twice or something. Same with Kewe, same with some other folk. Like, how are these guys doing this? But luckily for me, so to me it was kind of late, but not too late because I started my own journey while we were in 500 level. When you guys have started, long time ago. Because I remember Jeff told me that he was already getting gigs about almost millions of naira in like just with machine learning stuff, and I was like, guy, you didn't have 1,000 naira in your account. And see your like mates doing well, and it's not their fault. They already did what they are supposed to do. And me, I was still there thinking, okay, I need to get my degree. I need to do well, even though I did well in my degree. But I was able to realize on time in 500 level, okay, you need to actually learn and acquire more skills. Imagine we were about 96 in RSG then, and you guys will be looking for the same jobs. And tell me, what do you have that will separate you from these guys? Then, you were into R. Then I'm like, okay, let me start with R. I started with R. So I think I was the first person that started learning R in my set then. Then with followed by Albert and Ray. So I started, R separated me first. That even during my master, like not masters, my undergraduate projects, other people use spent money on that project. I used my own project to earn more money. And the reason is this. I went to Sestra to get rainfall data because and luckily almost everybody wanted to use rainfall data, and there was this guy that could only use R to process the data. And meanwhile, I already have the scripts. I just went through that day. Okay, what the I've forgotten the name of this man that gave me the data. I thought it should be processed data, but he just gave me data. Go and figure it out. And okay, I know program. I know how to use R. I just sat down, woke up. Okay, I don't know what came over me. I just started writing from the languages and everything, and I got the result that I wanted. Then lo and behold, people started reaching out, even outside RSG. Okay, they want to do this. Can you use AirPods with R? And I earned more than what I spent times 10. Imagine that served as a motivation for me. Okay, there are more to achieve here. Then I joined Coven Works to also do my own data science and AI bootcamp because I know you guys have done your own training before. Like I also need to go through this process because to me life is about process. Go through this process that these guys have gone through, learn, and now imagine if I didn't learn that and I didn't start during my school period because also utilize my school, not only about okay. I don't have any uncle that will give me job after my school. That was my own mindset. I need to do something more. I cannot go back home. What do I need to do? You understand? So all these thoughts started came in 500 level. Like, guy, you need to do more. I learned Python. I was very good then. It was even Jeff that taught us machine learning and deep learning for the second phase. I enjoyed programming then. From that was when I started. Okay, I think I will go into this more deeper, and I got my first gig because I love the idea that you shared that if majority of people are looking at this side, just you focus on another side that there is no audience, but there is a potential, opportunity there, and which is what also happened to me because I know how to write in R. Someone referred another student from I've forgotten this name of the university that okay, he has this project and his supervisor said he should only use R. And he
Yeah.
doesn't know how to use. And this guy, I think he code in other languages, but that R, he didn't know how to use it. So I collected a huge amount of money from this guy, and this is what I can actually do within 2 days. Even the one in my family level, this is the script that I already have saved in my file. So they will be hearing this as in my first time, saying this. I will tell them because I'm also a business person. I don't like to do something and make it look simple in front of others. I will tell them this thing will take me like 2 days to write the script. Where I
Yeah.
already have the script in my. I just need to open Art Studio, load their file, and just click run. I'll get it. But I will tell them, I will teach, it's taking like 2 days. I need to come to next class, use the, school light and Wi-Fi to do this
Yeah.
stuff. Just to give more value to what, I want to offer them. I don't like people to see things that even if it take me like 2 days to achieve it, no. I will let you see value in what I'm doing. So that because the more value you see, okay, this thing is hard, I cannot do it. Okay, it's only this guy that can do it, then you will pay more.
Yeah.
Because no matter what I do, the end goal is also to get some. I'm offering you value because life is like buying and selling. I'm selling you my own value, and I need to get something in return. And even though before we started, okay, let's start giving out to the community. Even this podcast is just one of my own ways of giving back to the community. And I love everything you shared. And I will say this again. Thank you to you. And thank you to Jeff. Thank you to Alba. Thank you to this guy that motivated me. Okay, guy, you need to do more, which I also thank God for where I am now and how I'm
Yeah.
able to help my own community and stuff.
Yeah.
This I will ask this question. You cross off, find the love of my life, and get married to someone I love. And I know that finding love in tech can be complicated, when you're in the tech or you're a tech guy. Have you ever had to choose between a relationship and your career growth?
Between relationship and career growth. Well, that's a very interesting one because I so it's still having a plan, right? I think the best relationship is also the one that you're working with someone who gets you, who you also understand to some certain level. And there's also this notion of, should I say, complementing one another. I think that's also very key, which is one of the reasons why I think very early on I realized that I don't think I'm ever going to get married or settle down with someone who's in tech. Not because I had any issue. It's just that I don't think after a busy week or busy month trying to figure something that is obviously not figuring it itself out, I want to sit down with a partner who also is going through the same thing, because sometimes because it's like most of the work you do is always in your head, and then you're more abstractive than actually being in this real state and mind. So you're always in your head, like you're trying to figure some things out. And I know how I can be at times. So finding someone who is also into that space, people think it's gonna be great. People think you have this person who is career driven, who is killing it in their career, who is doing this. But I don't think it never really made sense to me. Like I dated, and I also realized, that it won't work for me. Like it won't work for me. I don't want to sit down to start talking about my work or start talking about your issues with maybe this particular programming or whatever. I just want to talk about other things, right? I also want to learn about other things, right? So having someone who's not necessarily in the technical space gives me the opportunity to learn about other space, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things that I wanted to do. Like I wanted out of my relationship. The other thing is like, okay, you'll have core values as well. I think that's also very important as well. Like your core values needs to be aligned. But one of my values is career growth and development. Whether it's career, personal, or whatever, it's one of my values as well. Like I want to always think about growth, whether it's within the relationship, within this and within that. And interestingly enough, she also shares similar value, which is like she also want to grow. And being able to have someone like that is very important, because when you're putting in some time to like figure things out, like trying to grow in your career or whatever growth at that point in time for you looks like, it's easier. It's not like someone is feeling bad that you're not paying enough attention. But then the trade-off is whenever you're not available, for me, it's always like you try to be there, and then you try to go out of your way to make sure that you are very much available, and not like haphazarding the entire situation. Like you're there. So that's one of the interesting ways we've been able to like go through growth, relationship, and everything else that comes with it, right? I think for me, right, I think it's something that even a lot of my friends are also realizing, right? You end up thinking that it would be great to have this love of your life who does tech, who is doing this as well. In the end, right, you just realize that it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. It's gonna cause more friction than any other thing. So you want someone who knows her stuff. Like she is a physiotherapist and she knows her stuff very well. But the cool thing about this is that I also want to learn about those things. So something like bone movement and everything. Just know. And then when it comes to conversation as well, or let's say trying to understand things, there's that understanding that, okay, this person knows this very well than myself. So when we're talking about, okay, your ligament is probably moving in different angles, I'm not going to argue with you because I know that you're a professional in this. So when I'm talking about AI or data, she also gave me the courtesy of also knowing that, okay, Dennis has also put in the work in this. Because if you're now in that same business, I think for me, it's always like there's always going to be that sort of that friction might always come in. It's something, but that career growth and development is something that she always knew, and we always communicated that even up to today, most of what I'm also working towards is also has been based on career growth and development, both for relationship and personally as well. And yeah, I think that's how I've been
Wow.
or we've been trying to like manage those as well.
Wow. Maybe I should say this is how nature programs it. How it has been
Yeah.
working for majority of tech guys that I know, even including myself. I couldn't marry someone that is doing almost the same thing that I do because I know how crazy it can be. Imagine right now, I'm also thinking of a code I want to write on Monday. Now having someone that's also thinking like that, no, it will make the house full of boredom, nothing to share, nothing new. Because my wife is also in the medical, line. I think tech guys always flow more with medical, ladies, because we're like, okay, even if it's not medical, maybe in the finance aspect, at least there are some stuff, new thing that you don't know that even whenever she tells you, okay, this is the right thing, you can't argue because she's an expert in that field. And you are also gaining one or two things, and I appreciate you for sharing that. Now, looking at the uncompleted items on your 99 leaks, number one is like some of it to start a non-profit organization. Another one is to become a parent. And let me pick this third option to get a PhD. Out of this list, the option that I listed, which one scares you most, and which one you might never cross off?
Well, I think the one that scares me the most is the PhD. I think right now I don't think I'm leaning towards not having a PhD. I think right now the next big challenge for myself might be entrepreneurship. I think now the value you get from having a PhD, which is like spending 3 4 years to become a specialist in the field. Now, with things changing so fast, then the idea of PhD, it's becoming a little bit less of a priority because because I'm starting to realize that. Okay, so this was also something I understood from doing a master's, right? Like whatever idea you had during the process of having, or when or the ideas I had while I started my master's, it became so irrelevant quickly because of changing in technology. Because I think in 2023, I stumbled across RAG framework, which is retriever augmented generation, in a way to provide and reduce hallucination for LLMs. So that was what my thesis was about, right? So that was in 2023. Interesting enough, ChatGPT came out 2022. So in 2022, that's when I was like, okay, this is definitely going to be a really interesting project to work on, specifically using knowledge graph as its source of truth, as a data store, like as a source of truth. Now, 2023 up till 2024, when I was doing my masters, it was now the conversation in the entire organization. Like it's now the conversation in the entire technology space. So there were different ways to think about it, different ways to go about it, and but one of the biggest issue was that the master's project was really slow. So you have to go through this process. Your professor has to go through the process, and then sometimes even the people you're working with don't really understand this, and you not end up in a situation where you are having to like just do the bare minimum or spend more time writing and documenting than actually doing real work. So I think from that point, I started to realize that okay, in that list, one of the things that I might not end up doing is a PhD, but I also started realizing that maybe having PhD in that list might also be equally available. Maybe you build something really important, like build a company, build some things, and then having a PhD might be something that you get gift like you get later, or maybe it's just something that you just end up like happening to you, right? It's like stuff, something like that. But PhD is something that I'm like, okay, I think I'd rather probably go through the pursuits and then the personal struggle of running a business than actually going through a PhD, because now I feel like my understanding about things and then the way I like to iterate about problem is not well suited for research. Is more suited for businesses, which is like testing, failing fast, reiterating, going over it again and over and over and over. But research, you need to always prove a thesis or your hypothesis. It's great. I think it's great. It's something I might eventually pursue. But right now, I think it's something that I most likely, the likelihood of me having a PhD is really low. Like I think it's probably 20% right now, and everything else is still very, like, I think next year or even probably this year starting a non-profit is something that I'm very much excited about. I'm also looking at as well. Funny enough, like I think even when I think about entrepreneurship right now while I'm still employed, is also from that social enterprise where you can actually build a non-profit while you work because there's no conflicts of interest. It's just like a
Yeah.
social good. I think that's also one way I'm also thinking about entrepreneurship from a social standpoint. And like being a parent, that definitely, I think that's something that's also within something I definitely know I will have to do. I don't want my parents
Wow.
or everyone, my parents to be angry or worried and say
I know,
that, oh
right?
my, what's going on. So definitely with time, becoming a parent is something that I definitely will consider. Or it's
Wow.
not even consider, it's part of the plan. Yeah, it's part of the plan. But
Wow.
PhD is gradually
Fading
moving away
off.
from the plan. Yeah,
I see. I see. I can relate because I've never seen myself or even imagining myself doing PhD.
yeah,
Even if anybody maybe informed me maybe in 2019 or 2017 or 18 that okay, I'm going to have a master's degree, I'd be like, no, I'm not pursuing any degree
yeah.
anymore. But here we are. No one know what, but that PhD, I don't know, because I'm into entrepreneurship, into the corporate world. I don't want to add that one again. I've had enough to deal with. And this takes me to the last question.
Well, sorry, regarding that PhD, like, so I don't mind working for a research team. So let's say the like the project or the master, I mean the PhD thesis is working with a really fascinating, like very amazing research project, and then with good funding, then definitely that's definitely something that's always going to be really exciting. Like think
Yeah,
about the Atropics, the OpenAI,
yeah.
the Google Research, DeepMind, and as well, right? So that's those kind of, so it's research driven, but they move and then work, and they're as dynamic as companies, like as a business. So it's just that it's mostly like the ideas get reiterated, it gets tested, it gets proven. So those are something that's definitely fascinating. That's something that if that should come up, I definitely would like to pursue that. So maybe that was something you might also be interested in, like specifically those sort of research based PhD.
Yeah. Because trust me, to me, anything I'm available for something, okay, I know, okay, this thing I'm going to learn what is actually need, like maybe in demand skills or something that will actually help even the community to build something that maybe for the future or something that is almost, for example, you being in the open AI team thinking of how they can build a model that will make even life more easier or stuff like that. So that will actually interest because number one, I will learn more. Number two, I will build my network more. Number three, I will build my own portfolio, even myself more. Because being in such team, trust me, I know what it can do to someone's career. And thank you for sharing that. My last question is this. What is that one thing about your story that you have never told publicly before?
Well, Not necessarily very public. I think this is also like an entry point into public speaking. So thank you, by the way, Wale. I think this is also very important. So when it comes to this as well, it's also like from that, like your experience as well, having 1,000 naira in your account and then having to figure things out. Yeah, I think for myself, a lot of my friends as well, I think that's something that that was a struggle. Sometimes it's when I look back, it was a good struggle, right? I don't think I will understand or I know where I'll probably be right now if I had so my parents were supporting, like more not necessarily from supporting but capable, like you have all of those means, like you have like steady huge amount of money coming into your account. I don't know where I'll be, but the fact that the money they send is not enough, it finishes like maybe one week, and like 3 weeks later you're having to fend. And I think you're also there, one thing you probably see me a lot was in classes, very often. And the reason was not necessarily, well, it was partly because, so I had to make tough decisions, right? So in school, my devices got stolen more than 3 or 4 times, including my laptops, I think a number of times. And then it makes sense because I'm always in class. I am always finding somewhere to hide and do something like with internet as well. Yeah. So, but then there also come that point where you sleep in class because of the lack of security and someone else also needing some of these things to survive. You wake up, your laptop is gone.
You can't find it anymore.
and then you're worried and then it scares you, right? And then the most annoying thing right now is that you have to reach out to your family or anyone who cares. And sometimes they're not able to provide the support, specifically after you've lost your laptop a number of times. So I think 300 level, 200 or thereabouts, I had to really make a tough decision, which is getting an accommodation or replacing my stolen laptop. So I replaced my stolen laptop, and that accommodation becomes secondary. Well, it was becoming more like, okay, I don't really stay at home very much, so it wasn't. As I said, this is also part of calculated risk. Like I didn't really spend a lot of time at home. In my houses, I think 200 level. I just decided that okay, maybe I don't need accommodation anymore. I don't need accommodation anymore. So I decided to stay with friends. And then the funny enough is staying with friends was like, you go there, you change your clothes, and then you take a bath, and then you go back to class. So most of the thing I was doing, that was the word. I live in school, so I was living in school.
Wow.
Not necessarily like, but it was more from a point of, I think that for that year, I had to make a tough decision, and then the decision was to buy a laptop, than actually having accommodation because I could not have both, right? And that was interesting, and I think that was also very important as well. And then the other thing as well was my first trip outside of Nigeria was to attend the African Open Data Conference, which was happening in Accra, and that was 2026. Is it 2026 or 2025? So it was interesting, right? Because it was my first opportunity to speak in a global stage in Accra, Ghana. And it was one of the first ever African Open Data Science Conference. Like African Open Data Conference. Yeah, Open Data Conference. It was open data, open source.
Okay.
So it's an interesting I knew it was an important event. I also knew that I needed to be there, but I didn't really understand how important it was. So, but the problem right now is that you didn't have any funding, like there's no any money to do that. So, and what I had to do as well was also part of, I think that was the reason. So there's 2 years where I had to live with people. I think the first one was because I needed to attend that conference. I think probably that was not the other, that was probably one of them. So I needed to travel to Accra, Ghana. No plan. just know that I needed to go to Accra, Ghana to give a talk because the talk was accepted, and I knew that it was important to be there. I didn't really know how important it was. So what I did was I was coming back to having great people around, like reach out to people who could help, who could like ask for help, and and then also open source as well. So the youth campus as well. I also got like this micro grant to fund, but what they do right now was reimbursement. So you're only going to get this money after you've gone, which is it's a terrible thing. It's something that I wish international organization could do better, because at that point it puts a lot of friction on the person to figure something out. So what I did was I had to figure something out. So I had to reach out to people to like, okay, I have this, but it's not there yet. I needed to do this thing. So some people listened, some people helped, but at the same time, I needed to travel all the way to Accra, Ghana for a 2 days event. Is it 2 or 3 days event? No accommodation, no plan. This thing. So the only thing I was able to get from the money and generosity of people was the transportation to go.
To get to Accra.
Where am I going to stay? I have no idea. But the interesting thing as well was I knew people from open source as well. OpenStreetMap. People that lived in Ghana. So we were interacting. So there's this will also have like this open hub. So for like 2 or 3 days, we were at, and then the other people from Togo, Benin Republic, Ghana as well, from different part of Ghana. So we all stayed in this house that was made available by someone who is leading an open source initiative within Accra. And when we were sleeping, we was probably on the floor, just staying, and then we have to like walk all the way to the Accra data open, like the conference, the conference event space. And it was interesting because everyone there was just like, it's part of the hustle. And then we went there, we were sleeping on the floor, and then coming back as well. I think the worst thing was like, okay, I had money to go, I didn't have money to come, but I was just believing that something will happen. So eventually something happened, right? So I met people, I called, and then they were able to provide the second ticket, which I bought when I was going. So it was interesting, but the most interesting thing was that every other event that I attended, or all the opportunities that I attended, I always make reference to me being to the African Open Data Conference, the biggest or the largest open data conference in Africa. So that was a very important thing. As I said, I never really understood how important that was, but I just knew that I needed to be there. And being there was more like, I don't mind like sleeping on the floor, or whatever the case may be. So I went there. It was interesting because obviously you can't afford to fly. Now you start seeing people like, there's insecurity to move from Lagos to Accra, all of those things, giving excuse and everything. Like everyone wants to use a flight to travel to places. That was the first time I was ever leaving the country. I even had to get a passport for that. I had to go through the road for that. But the thing is, I said it was important. It was very important because you can always mention this event in whatever you're doing. So I think, interesting enough, with that I was able to like get more grants and more scholarship. And then the next year I was able to like get Arrow Studio conferences as well, where I also make references to my experience at the open data. So it's just those little decisions that I made that didn't seem like much, and I knew that it was really like the other solution was not going, which was like the easiest, and the hardest was actually going. And funny enough, right, lately, if someone invites me for an event and they tell me that they're not providing all expense trip, I'm saying I'm not going. But back then I could not afford to do that. Like even the idea that I'm gonna get the money back, I can pay people back, I decided to take whatever opportunity I am. And lately, like if I'm traveling, I'm getting enough money to like even stay in very good hotels and everything. But that particular reference point was also very important. And I think that risk is something a lot of people don't necessarily want to
Want
take.
to take,
Either,
yeah.
either
Yeah.
they just believe that people are doing it and life could be easier for them. But the honestly is that you need to start from somewhere. And
Yeah.
for me, where I started from was that particular experience.
Wow.
As I said, right, you've seen me in classes where
Yeah.
always in school, to the extent where sometimes you shove things in different places where you can easily change, take a
Yeah.
bath, eating not eating
Wow.
well. Like it's
Wow.
part of those sacrifice because you know the outcome. Like you also want to work towards. I was glad that you mentioned that you finally figured out your way in 500 level, right? Which was very important as well because that skills was very important. Like you
Yeah.
need to figure out what way or which way, what skills, and how you're gonna get it. And then the funny thing I also tell people, or the most important thing I tell people is that you need to experiment. I tried Python, I did C sharp, I did many other things. You just have to find something that works. And then the more you're finding those things, and then the more you're finding these things, the more you start understanding yourself better. And then while you're also doing all of these things, you need to find those opportunities. Yours was arrow, like mine. But the interesting thing about this is that I was doing arrow more internationally because you started a little bit late, not necessarily
Yeah.
like a little bit
Yeah.
late. But it was also important that you started because right now when it comes to research, everyone knows you, and I think the person you're talking to was Olumide in Sestra because Sestra
Yeah.
there,
Yeah. You got it. Yeah.
yeah, so he's not a doctor. So Sestra then, that guy was a very amazing person. Like he's still a very amazing person. So I spent a lot of time with him. He, it's just important. And funny enough, people also like people that that tries to go on and beyond. Like people will always want to help. Like people want
Yeah.
to
I
help.
feel.
People want to help. You just have to find and ask for help, and then just make sure that they know that it's worth their while. Like people are always very interested to help people. Yeah,
Wow. This goes to everyone listening.
yeah,
As Dennis has said, most people don't want to take that first risk.
yeah,
Imagine that you didn't take the risk. That be like, I don't have
yeah,
the money. I'm not going to go. Do you know how many doors wouldn't have
yeah,
opened? And I'm pleading, I'm begging people listening, please. If there is, you may not even know. Just try everything. Try experiment. I can't count how many things I've experimented in my life. You can
yeah,
ask. You can ask Temelorum. I started learning HTML, CSS. It got to a point I was already building, pages and stuff. My laptop got unbound, and
yeah,
unfortunately, I didn't know about cloud storage then. Everything was, stored on the local drive, and I didn't have any backup. At that point, I just lost ginger to learn programming. I
yeah,
paused for like a year until 500 level again. Because whenever maybe I see some terminal writing all this, I'm like, is this that these guys are genius? Is it that they were born in a different way? How can someone be writing something jargons? I was curious, then like, how are these guys doing this thing? Like, I want to learn this thing. I was just curious, like, how can I learn this? Until I got to know, oh, so this is the secret of things. Even till now, people still wonder, okay, how are people writing now? Even now, coding is more easier with the advent of AI and different tools. I don't even bother to rack your brain to even to cram anything again. Just ChatGPT or any AI tool that you are exposed to. But this still boils to the point that take that risk. And also to everyone that is in the undergraduates, I wish, as you said, I started almost late, and I mentioned, I said I almost missed it. You understand? Even after I graduated, I've seen a lot of people that I maybe talk to. I'll be like, forget about relationship for now. Focus on your life. You won't know the benefits of you being a student, especially in university. It's better to build and know what you want to do with your life. Try everything in the university. Then you know, okay, this is what you want to do. It's better to fail early, as you said, that to treat, because I always treat myself as a business. I've been a business person. It's always try different things, fail earlier. As you fail, then you will realize, okay, this is not meant for me. Then this is actually what I can do, because it's just 1 year that you need. It may be so, because I'm very sure it's not the first time that you apply for grants that you got one. You must have maybe applied for some, and they were like, maybe no, it didn't work or stuff like that, until you got the one that actually opened. And even the one that opened the door, you struggle to even get there, but you had the determination to get there. And now, look at where you are thriving, because look at your cheeks, man. Look at your cheeks, man. And my life is looking good on you. Trust me, I must say that. And shout out to your wife for taking care of this young man. And thank you very much, Dennis, for sharing this. Personally, I've learned a lot from your journey, and I want to shout out to everyone who are in the situation that you were maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and looking, okay, how do I do this? You are listening to what Dennis said. You already know what he did. Now he gave more strategic, actionable insights that you can apply, even for those looking for international jobs. Now, people, even here, trust me, people are now going back to Africa to hire talent. That is what is happening now. People prefer to hire, especially Nigerians, to do their job than to even hire, people like, and this is what people don't realize. They always want to, okay, I want to end this, I want to do this. Forget about that. Build yourself, have a plan, know what it takes to be like Dennis, even to be better than him. And trust me, it's a matter of time you will get it, and you will be grateful to yourself that you take the bold step, take the risk and do everything. Dennis, where can people connect with you if this conversation, if they want to continue to learn about you, to learn about your story, where can they connect with you?
Well, I think this platform currently, I won't say I'm not necessarily active on any platform, but the platform that I spend more time on lately is LinkedIn. Yeah, I think LinkedIn is one. Although also lately I started working. I think for the past, oh wow, it's more than a year now. I started a blog, and that has also been very interesting as well, because it's the same thing I told you about earlier, where part of List 99 was also that reflection. Because right now, in the age of AI or even digital world, where everyone is more about approbation than actually true reflection, one of the things I started doing as well is taking some time back to reflect. And that's where my blog comes in. Because it's interesting where, like, there's no this blueprint on career journey, and a lot of time people make a lot of mistake. Myself, I've made some fair shares of those. And I started like just reflecting, and funny enough, it helps me as a form of journaling, like knowing my thoughts, than actually just having a piece that someone is going to either like or react or comment on. It's more from a point of, okay, what did I do well in the past 2 weeks, 1 week, and then just write about it. So that's the one way to like also for me as well. But I think LinkedIn is the go-to. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So for everyone listening, just go to LinkedIn, search for Dennis. And I've been wanting to ask this question because I don't know if I always pronounce your surname correctly, but let me pronounce it the way I always say it. I will say Dennis Irorere. Is it correct?
Well, technically, 95% of people pronounce it that way. So there was a phase of my life where I was thinking maybe that's the right way, but then it's not.
Okay.
It's Irorere. So the last RE is not pronounced. The E is stretched. Irorere. Yeah.
Irorere. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I've learned something new again since. How many years back?
I said 90. I think it's actually 99% of people get it wrong. It's a Benin name, and also Funny enough, I never even understood the meaning until recently as well, and it means I would think about it. So,
Wow.
so I really like the
Wow.
name because I think that my life is
Wow.
also shaping us to think more about things and just doing. Yeah,
And by
yeah.
the way, you should write a book. I love your content in your blog, especially the one that is another moment in London. I'm like, okay, let me go and read them. I read some of them. They are quite nice. Please.
Well, so that's probably the plan in 5 years, like writing a personal book. But I'm currently working on a business data literacy book right now.
Okay.
I even spoke with a publisher
Okay.
last week. It was nice this thing. It's called Data for the Rest of Us. So it's more like similar to like the journey, like what you've done. And I think just writing more about like talking about how data is important in this age of intelligence, but simplifying it for the rest of the world. Yeah, like I mean the 7 billion people who will use their data, but they don't necessarily understand how that actually
Oh,
happens. Yeah.
wow, that would be great, and I'll be one of your sponsors to even promote it on the show. I would gladly love to do that when you publish it out. And
Yeah.
this will be the end of the podcast for every body listening to this. And if Dennis' story resonated with you, please don't hesitate to comment, share it with your friend, transfer to someone that needs to hear it. Because trust me, this contains a lot of strategic insight that you can implement and build your career. Even if you're a career changer, you're a student, even you're someone that want to upskill, this contains what you actually need. Trust me
Yeah.
when I'm saying this. And don't forget to keep learning, to keep growing, to keep living, and to keep enjoying life. This is your host, the Data Dude, and our guest for today is Dennis Irorere. If I hope I got it.
Yeah, you did well. Thanks, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.